Hello, everybody. So, how you guys doing?
Okay, I notice that people have such different color of skin, and some can be kind of rosy, and others are yellowish. So, should you be concerned with somebody who has yellowish skin?
Well, is that something that would be related to their ethnicity?
No.
Then I would be concerned. It's just like, I remember the first times I was learning about that when I was a teenager, and I heard things like, "Well, this person's skin color, they're a little darker skin color, but it's kind of an olive green." And my first thought was, they're not green. But what we're talking about is the little highlights and little things that make difference in skin color. That happened to be someone that was Sicilian, Italian. So yes, if it's not part of their ethnicity, that they would have these tones that would be of a natural, healthy state for them, then it's of concern. It doesn't always mean, like a lot of people think, that it is liver disease, because in TKM you study that first stratum dysfunction can produce a lot of jaundice in the eyes, jaundice in the skin. So it could be liver or it could be a first stratum dysfunction. But if they have that tone, that's a flag. It's a problem, unless they're even if I just said Asian, it doesn't apply because there's so many different type of skin colors from different regions and different types of Asians that didn't apply. But Asian is typically called a yellow type skin. So we're talking about other ethnic groups, Caucasian, which for me, I'm a Heinz 57. I'm a mixture of a variety of things and ethnicity. So if you see yellowish in the eyes or a yellowish in the skin, that is a highlight, that's a problem. And the more you see it, the bigger of an issue it is. It's a flag that it's holding it up. And if you see it more, it starts to wave and it may be going, hey, does anybody recognize there is a problem here? The person's not getting it. Maybe you could get their attention and tell them, because I'm presenting it. So if it's not liver, if it's not their liver organ and third stratum correlation, then the thing to look towards is their toxicity level, their mental emotional perspective that congest first stratum, stomach and spleen, and all of the other correlations that go with first stratum category. Is that what you were asking?
Sounds good.
Hi. I have a question, and it kind of relates to what Janice was just saying, too. If you notice that somebody has an issue, for example, I've noticed a lot of people with early Parkinson's and eventually found out, yes, they had Parkinson's. What do you do with that? I mean, you don't just go up to them and say, "Do you have Parkinson's?" What is the approach to best help them?
Well, I'm assuming you're talking about somebody you know.
Yes.
Okay, so you start a conversation because what are we getting into now? We're getting into something of you don't want to offend anybody or anything like that, right?
Yes.
But you're curious and you care.
Yes.
I would put that far above curious, because the motivation by curious would not be really a good motivation, but that you care and you want to make sure that they are aware of what you're noticing.
Mm-hmm.
So what I have done with, for instance, with some people that come and they come for one thing and you see others, is in the conversation, during the conversation, I usually don't start a conversation as that, but in a conversation, I'll veer it over to, well, I've noticed that, your right hand is shaking. How long has that been going on?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's somebody I don't know. So if you knew somebody, say, I noticed that your hand is shaking. I haven't noticed it before, or I've been noticing that for a few weeks or a few months,
Mm-hmm.
that it hasn't gone away, or that it seems to be getting a little bit more so. Have you noticed that? Flip it back to them with a question. Have you
Mm-hmm.
noticed that? Now, I would say that most people will say yes. I would assume they'd say yes, because I'm saying that because I'm sure that they notice.
Mm-hmm.
But that opens up the conversation. Yes, I've noticed that. I don't know what it is. It bothers me at times. Well, then when they start talking about that, when they speak, then you have something to come back and comment.
Mm-hmm.
So you're basically gently bringing up something and see if they have the awareness and attention of it. And then their responses to that typically will give you an open road to talk more about it. And if
Uh-huh.
and I would graduate into it based on how well you know the person would be receptive to a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're not real receptive to a discussion, comments, feedback, then you feed a little bit out at a time. And feeding a little bit out at a time is when they say their comments about it, whatever they are, then you say a little something that's coupled with a question to get them to say something else.
Mm-hmm.
So you're trying to get a back and forth conversation versus let me open the door so I can talk about what all I want to talk about. That
Mm-hmm.
won't work very well. You want to have it as a back and forth discussion to let's talk about this. Let's evaluate this. What are the possibilities? What do I think it may be or could be, and how could you find out about it? And it's something that you're gonna want to start leaning it towards. It's definitely something we don't want to ignore
Mm-hmm.
because it comes up. Your body is doing something that's not right, that's not normal, that's not natural, and it's trying to get your attention about a problem. So we don't want to ignore it. We want to investigate it. We don't want to get fearful. And I don't, suggest running to the doctor because that's what they're going to do. So obviously I would be looking at gathering information, talking to somebody in the natural field or integrating field that can give you more different perspectives than just strictly drugs and surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Does that help?
Yeah, that helps. What if it's somebody that we don't know? Do we just sort of ignore it and walk on?
Can you give me an example?
Oh, like you're in the grocery store and you see somebody who obviously has, I guess, yeah, that'd probably be a little bit too weird for them.
I understand because, I get that all the time, all day, every day. And, some people, I'm sorry, sad to say, I look at them and even on, a television or a video or something like that, I look at them, I'm like, oh, whoa. I wonder if they are aware of how bad they really are.
That happens to me too.
Yeah. And, obviously on television, video, something like that, there's absolutely nothing we can do. When it comes to somebody in the grocery store, that's a pretty difficult situation
Mm-hmm.
because, we're not that sociable these days,
Mm-hmm.
not that friendly and sociable. Goodness, I live on the outskirts of Dallas, but, wherever you live around here, it's kind of city life. If you're out in the country, it's different. People are more sociable, they're more friendly, they're more open. You can discuss things, but cities are pretty messed up in this country right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that everybody lives in the city because I live in the city. I hope I'm not that messed up. That's what's wrong with this country is the majority of the people that actually are in cities on two sides. They're what's following this country being in such a mess in every way that you can look at it. And they're the people that live in the cities that are guiding the others in the cities towards those directions. So yes, the people get very defensive, offensive. They also get very the selfie thing. It's all about them these days. You don't have that much outside in the country and stuff like that. I mean, they got to focus on real life and what's going on. So
This is
I
Jenny.
would say it depends on your personality. If you're a person that typically walks up and starts conversations with strangers and that works well and you're comfortable with that, then you could probably walk up and start a conversation and work it into that pretty quick. If you're not a person that's comfortable with that, the other side, whoever it is you're talking to, is going to recognize that. You're not going to. Here's what you do with a stranger. You got to make a connection. If it's male, male, female, female, male, female, child, adult, whatever it is, when you're talking with another human being, you got to find some kind of connection. And then you build on that connection for a conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a person that easily makes connections and starts conversations and can talk about things or, oh, I like your clothes. I what your shoes, or like your hair, like this, that, or the other. Oh, what's that you bought there? I like that. I got that last time. Then I would say that would be more likely a conversation that could then go into, oh, and I noticed that, you had this look, or I see this over here, and I was just concerned. What's going on with you? Do you mind me asking what's going on? And they might not know. They might say, oh, did you notice something? Well, boom, you just opened the conversation.
Yes, very good. Thank you.
This is Janice. When somebody has shaky hands, is that always a sign of Parkinson's?
No, there's a variety of things that could produce that. ALS, Parkinson's, there's a variety of disorders, and most of those deal with neurological brain disorders. But there are sometimes it could simply be maybe the person has got a weakness, an injury, an impairment in the energy, or damage to a nerve, or something else that may produce that. But you're looking for patterns as well when you look at things like for Parkinson's. If it's a consistent pattern, one of the things that we do in TKM, if a Perkin comes in for therapy, they're laying on the table, I'm going to do small intestine sequence for Parkinson's. And when I do that sequence for the side that they're having the shaking with the arm or the hand or whatever is going on, and I'm going to watch it, because not all the time, but the majority of the time during the sequence, when pulses start coming through and it starts responding, that shaking is going to settle down, if not stop. Now, later on, when you're finished, it could start gradually, or it could start immediately back up. But usually, not 100% of the time, but usually with the help provided, you will see the difference. You will see the improvement right there on the spot. So I look for things like that. If it's not Parkinson's or some of those other things, then usually you can find out because there's been a type of injury, a disease, a weakness, something that has made an impairment that they're usually aware of, because it's going to be something that's made an impact on their life.
Okay.
But in general, forget the labels for now. What we're talking about for the majority of these things is a neurological impairment. And a lot of the neurological impairments are due to toxicity level. So again, keeping it simple, applying the good basics and common sense to what's going on. And because the labels can be very, very scary.
Yes. Can it have anything to do with stress if it's just very intermittent?
Absolutely. So if the person doesn't seem stressed, or they're in denial of stress, but you recognize stress and you see that, then yes, that could be 100% stress. So what do you do there? You want to get them out of the stress mode. Stress is a perspective. So it's how we deal with things. And I'm not saying that you will be in a stress-free situation. I'm not exactly at total peace right now with everything that's going on. But I have to keep reminding myself a simple truth. God's on his throne. He's in charge. So whatever happens, I remind myself of that. I also remind myself, kind of like the story I said earlier, that when God, Holy Spirit, Jesus, whoever was speaking to me, and the person that he was speaking to me in, said I had the end in my hands all the time. Well, that's a very good reminder for everybody that's dealing with any level of stress about anything whatsoever. Because, don't be stressed. Does that work? Well, that usually stresses a person. So we've got to find ways to look at things to help us through our trials, our tribulations, our wars and battles and everything else. So the one for me, God's in charge, and I'm going to lay everything on him that I possibly can to get it off of me as much as possible. And then I'm going to do things like, am I drinking enough water? Am I getting enough good sleep? Am I breathing deep enough? Am I doing exercise? If I'm stressed about a particular thing, walk it out. Get out and walk. And you can think, you can pray, you can talk to yourself, and don't take a walk and say, well, I've done 15 minutes. Well, I've done an hour. Walk it out until it gets settled in your body or mind. If it's not settled in your mind, then wait until your body says, okay, that's enough. I have gone limp because I can't hold on to the stress anymore. Walk it out. It's amazing what that can do. If it's chronic stress, you've got to find a different way of looking at things and processing them. That chronic stress means that we have adapted a perspective that's not working. I hope that was of some help.
Yes, thank you.
Could you please address sleep issues?
Do you have an example?
Being able to fall asleep but waking up in the night and not being able to go back to sleep?
Okay, so sleep and sleep environment is such a tremendous, vast subject. So one of the things you do is you start doing a process of elimination. What do you do just before you go to sleep? Are you on the phone or the computer or the TV? Things that you're getting blue light, which stimulates the brain, which does not allow you to relax and go to sleep. That's aside from the EMF exposure that you're getting that causes tension and chaos that doesn't allow you to sleep properly. And then there's other things. And I'm just going to touch on some things here. Do you have electrical EMF producing devices around the bed? A nightstand that has lamp, clock, different things. I've known people that actually wear watches to sleep. That's horrible. That's horrific. Do you have any rings or jewelry or anything metallic on your body that should be taken off? Do you have Wi-Fi on in the house? If you don't have any of those things, do you have a meter to check to see what kind of exposure you're getting from either a smart meter or your neighbor's smart meter, or a cable or a wire outside the house, or the cabling inside the house? So these are touching on a lot of different things. Are you on a geopathic grid? Are you on a water line that could be moving where you're sleeping under you? Because just a still water line with water in it won't make that big a difference. But if the water is moving, is there a fault in the ground under you? Is there an underground stream moving? All these things can cause some chaos in your system and disturb you from proper sleep. The other thing is what kind of things are you doing to prepare yourself for bed at night? And do you do other things in bed? For instance, I know a lot of people that go to bed and they'll watch TV in their bed before they go to sleep. That's taboo, because then your body is not being programmed. You want to be programmed to where you go to bed and you lay down, that your body knows, oh, they're doing this, so this means it's time to go to sleep. And so the same thing with, are you there and you're looking at your phone and going through stuff? Do you lay down and go through your day's agenda or tomorrow's agenda, which starts to get the mind to work? And it will start working on that and affect your sleep, your dreams, and everything else. So I'm just touching on a few things. Are you relating to any of these?
I have blue blocking glasses that I wear at night, and I try not to watch screens after 7 o'clock. We're out in the country, no smart meters, no Wi-Fi, but sleep is still an issue.
Okay.
I unplug things at night in the bedroom,
So
I'm trying to figure out what the root cause is.
Are you stressed?
Yes.
Well, that could be a root cause, because stress affects your sleep. If a person is stressed, now this is two things. Are you stressed because you can't sleep, or did you have stress before you had the sleep issue? So
there's always been stress, but I can fall asleep. I just can't stay asleep.
That could also be due to stress, because your mind is working on these unresolved things. Because if you have an ongoing stress, you have unresolved things. I have a perspective that I'm not okay with this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be stressed. And so your mind is trying to work this out. And if it's not resolving, then you come back up. I'm not at peace. Let me just say it that way. I'm not at peace. I'm not at peace. So this is another way of why the Lord says, don't go to bed on anger, and don't let, all the different things that he's talking about what can upset your heart, take your peace, steal your peace, be stressed about. Stress, you'd typically say, would be a fourth stratum fear aspect, but there could be many, many things related. There could be a first stratum aspect that's causing the stress. So the key thing there is peace, finding what gets you peace. So the other side, what you may be doing, is what you do before you go to sleep. The first broad spectrum thing I always recommend is the median sequence, doing a very thorough median sequence, and especially staying on the first step for quite a while. There's a lot of people that will fall asleep during that. And I know you said you go to sleep easier, but then you wake up later. So is there a particular time that you wake up each time?
It's usually after 2:30 to 4:30.
Okay, so you're getting into liver function in that area. So then you might, if you know pulses, you might want to check your pulses and other signs and symptoms and indicators for third stratum correlation, especially with liver versus gallbladder, and see if there's something going on in your system that keeps waking you up each night during that approximately 2-hour period that liver is doing a diagnostic on itself, the liver system.
Okay. How do you do pulses on yourself?
Do you know how to do pulses on someone else?
I'm still learning.
Okay. So when you do them on yourself, you do it exactly like you do on somebody else, except you can't do both at the same time. So on yourself, you would do exactly the same. You'd come in, and then you check one side, and then deep, and then you do the same thing on the other side. You repeat it. So the only thing you're going to miss there is that one hit that I talk about when you're touching them to let you know about the right or left. Everything else, all the other information you can gather by checking pulses on yourself. Or if there's somebody around, to check the pulses on you. And also check, like I was saying, other signs and symptoms. What's the history of surgeries? What's history of other complications? What is even the skin color that we talked about earlier and other things going on? Have you ever had a liver cleanse?
Yes, just
How
on
is
my
your
own.
diet? How is bowel movement? It can be, all of those things can be a direct either contributor, aggravator, or culprit.
Okay.
Do you have any eye problems that are going on? It could be directly related to liver.
Just weakening eyes all the time.
Weakening?
Well, the vision becoming less and less.
Okay. That's, there's energy spheres involved, but that is a third stratum correlation. And you also are waking up each night in a pattern that deals with third stratum. So we're seeing some common denominators. So are you working on yourself for the eyes and for third stratum and especially liver, like doing liver sequence?
I do the liver, but right now I'm working mostly on my lungs because of my lung issues at the moment. And back a few weeks ago, that's when I was waking up at 4:30 with the lung issues. That is not resolved, but it's getting better. And now I notice that it is more the detox liver type issues.
Well, there's a direct correlation. In other words, that shift at 4, you're going from the liver back into second stratum. So you're explaining to me that you've got signs and symptoms for both third and second stratum.
And fourth.
And fourth.
And probably first.
But just in relation to the sleep aspect, your body is getting your attention between those bridges of, sounds like primarily third and liver and lung in second.
Yes.
So I would be working on the things that relate to those bridges and those particular pathways and the energy spheres. For instance, the number 4 energy sphere is in first stratum, but it's in the region of third stratum for your body and will help liver function and eyesight and help bridge those different things. The 4s deal with the amalgamation of the element. So 4s are very, very important to help these projects.
So are you talking about the 4 sequence or just holding the number 4?
Doing the 4 just like for the
Okay.
liver, doing the liver sequence, and the lung doing
Okay.
the lung sequence. Are you also doing any spleen?
Yes.
Good. Now, when you're doing these sequences, about how much time do you spend per step?
I try to do it until I feel the energy moving, which sometimes can be a long time.
Yes, good. So you're not just working on an average of 5 minutes.
Not unless I'm in a hurry, but I try to do it until I can feel it.
Wonderful. So is there anybody else around that also knows how to check pulses?
No, not yet. And I think I shall have to have someone learn.
That would be very, very good so you can help each other. So the other thing I would advise to, because there's things you can work on, there's experimentation, but it would be good to get confirmation, and the pulses are going to be what would give you confirmation. So if you can check your pulses, surface and deep, a couple of times or several times throughout the day and find some kind of pattern, if you have a pattern during the day, then when you wake up at night during that time, check your pulses and see what they're saying at that time, which may give you a complete different pattern. And that's your flag, that's your bail. Whatever pattern that is at that time of night, that's what's doing it.
So why would the two be different?
Because you're going through a diagnostic through that, let's say between your 2 and 4 in the morning, and it's working heavily on that liver system. And then not just liver, but it's impacting your systems, and you check the pulses and it's got something that's contrastingly silent or contrastingly pounding, then that lets you know the obstacle that it's having during that time. And then you can also, just to reiterate, to double check, you can, if that happens another night and you wake up, check and see what the pattern is there. Is it that one that you wake up with before? And again, that's confirmation after confirmation after confirmation that you know now what the problem is that needs to be worked on.
Okay. So the patterns during the day may be different than the night pattern, but the night pattern would be the more important.
Right. So you need to know. So if you only check it at night when you wake up, you don't know if that's contrastingly different from any other 24-hour period of time. So if there is a particular problem that's waking you up that time of night, it will be a difference in your pulse patterns. It will show.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. I will work on that.
And please let me know what you come up with.
Well, I'm still learning the pulses. I still have not gotten the hang of it, but I will work on it.
You've got the right mindset. So whatever you do get and discern, get back with me and let me know about that, and we'll take it step by step and get this thing resolved.
Okay, thank you.
You are quite welcome. So any last question? Looks like we're running out of time.
I have one more question.
All right.
For the peer-reviewed articles, when will those be available and where can we find them?
Okay, I've never written a peer-reviewed article, all right? And the way these are being done, they're being done in a different way than they normally are because they're being done as a case series versus just one case. And this is all being suggested by a board of doctors so that they can get it right, because they have a great compassion and concern for TKM getting its due and being put out there correctly. I keep going by their suggestions. I have a writer that writes the normal ones, but this is not normal. And then they write it, and then I send it off to them, and they send back comments that like, well, you need to change this part, and you need to take out this part, and you need to change the format to be a little consistent over here, and alter this, that, and the other. And so we keep going back and forth with this. With something that I'm unfamiliar with. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
I'm waiting for the feedback on the other one. And once I get this pattern down pretty good, because I've got a lot of them that are roughly written. So once I get it down to where they say, oh, okay, that works to whatever degree, then I will just follow that pattern with the rest of it. So I feel like I'm walking in the dark with nobody's making the noise to give me a direction or holding my hand or anything else. I just send it off and they tell me what doesn't work. But when it does get published, my hope was before the first of the year. And I keep expressing that. And I like what they do. Instead of just accepting it, they say, no, we really need to change this and that and the other. So when it does, believe me, I'm going to put it all over the place for people to know that it's published. We'll get a copy of it. And then here's the thing that they also suggested, which I don't know that much about. I read a lot of published articles, but they said it also helps a lot once they publish it, and the first place it will get published is in the ACIM journal.
Mhm.
And then they say, then we need to submit that to other journals and publications so that it has a lot of publications. It's a peer-reviewed article that has been published in a variety of areas. So when that happens, I'm going to let everybody know.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. So that looks like it today. God bless you all. I enjoyed this. I hope you're all doing well, healthy, and have some peace of mind and heart. Keep the Lord before you in all things at all times, and we will talk to you soon again. God bless you. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.